Last Christmas, my mother handed me a stack of dirty plates while my brothers sat on the couch, laughing at some movie. I scrubbed, dried, put everything away. I didn't say a word. Now, months later, she's calling me for money. My brothers won't answer her calls. Would you have spoken up in that moment, or just waited to see how far they would go? Sometimes I wonder if silence is safer, or if it just gives them more power. I'm Rachel, the oldest of three and the only girl. My brothers, Danny and Paul, are twins, 3 years younger. We grew up in a quiet suburb outside Cleveland, the kind of place where the same families have lived on the block for decades, and everyone's house looks almost the same. My parents still live in the house I came home from the hospital to, a split level with faded shutters and a maple tree that drops leaves all over the driveway every fall. Inside, it always smelled a little like lemon cleaner and coffee. I'd just finished my master's in education that December. I was 26, and I was home for one last Christmas before moving to Cincinnati for a teaching job I'd worked hard to get. My brothers were both still living at home, working part-time jobs and taking a few college classes, never in a hurry. My mother, Linda, told everyone she raised us all the same. But even as a kid, I noticed I was the one expected to help with groceries, keep my room spotless, and set the table without being asked. The boys could leave their mess and disappear, and Mom would just sigh and pick up after them. Dad worked long hours and didn't say much about the small stuff. He was there, but not in any way that stopped the pattern. That Christmas felt different, but I couldn't say why. Maybe it was knowing I was about to leave home for good, or maybe it was just being old enough to see how things really worked in our family. My mother was already making lists, barking orders, wanting everything perfect for Christmas Eve dinner. I could hear her voice from the kitchen. "Rachel, can you take those pies out? Rachel, can you check on the twins?" The boys were in the basement, playing video games, their laughter muffled through the floor. I tried not to let it bother me. I told myself it was just a few more days, then I'd be gone. But there was a tightness in my chest every time I heard my name and not theirs. Looking back, I see it was always there. Christmas was only the tipping point. The plates clatter louder than usual when Mom sets them by the sink. I'm close enough to see a faint chip on the rim of one, but she doesn't seem to notice. She keeps her eyes on the counter, voice tight. "Rachel, you know where these go?" I nod, even though she isn't looking at me, and reach for the sponge. The soap feels cold on my hands. I hear my brothers from the living room, their laughter mixing with the TV. Some sports game, I can't tell which one. The announcer's voice booms every few seconds. Mom's footsteps click across the faded linoleum, then stop behind me. I feel her watching. The faucet runs too long before I realize I've zoned out, so I turn it off and start scrubbing a plate. She stands there a moment, arms crossed, like she's waiting for something, then sighs. Her chair scrapes as she leaves the kitchen and goes to sit with the boys. Danny, my younger brother, glances back through the door. He shrugs when he catches my eye, then picks up the remote and raises the volume. I can barely hear the water over the noise now. I stack one clean plate on the drying rack. My hands move fast, muscle memory from years of doing this. I hear a muffled crash from the living room, then more laughter. Mom's voice floats in from the other room. "Your sister's such a big help." No one answers. I rinse a glass, set it down, and listen for a reply. Nothing. I dry my hands on the dish towel and look over at the empty kitchen table. There are crumbs where my brothers sat earlier, but nobody cleared them. The pile of plates is gone, but the silence feels the same. I wipe the counter, pushing crumbs into my palm. The sponge squeaks against the formica. I glance at the clock. It's only 6:30. The evening stretches ahead. More noise from the living room, maybe another load of dishes after dinner. I press my lips together and put the last glass away. Mom laughs at something on TV, sharp, forced. I hear her offer snacks, and the boys get louder. I move quietly, so I don't bother anyone. When I finish, I stand in the doorway for a second, but nobody looks over. Mom's feet are propped up on the coffee table. Danny and Mark are fighting over the remote, voices rising, then settling when Mom snaps at them to quiet down. I walk upstairs and close my door. The sound of the TV comes through the floorboards. I sit on the edge of my bed, hands still damp from washing up. The house is full of noise, but in my room it's just me and the faint echo of Mom's voice. Helpful, always helpful. I wonder if she'll say anything when I don't come back down. I doubt it. In the hallway, footsteps go past. No one knocks. I listen to the muffled laughter, the TV, the sound of someone opening a bag of chips. The smell drifts up, salt and grease. I lean back against the wall, phone in my hand, but don't open any messages. It's quiet enough in here that I can almost imagine being somewhere else. I stare at the ceiling, counting the slow seconds until the noise fades for the night. She sat at the kitchen table, the overhead light catching the steam from her mug. The house was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock. I leaned on the counter, folding a dish towel, watching her swirl her tea with a spoon she didn't need. I waited until she put the spoon down. Why can't Danny or Paul help sometimes? She didn't look up. Her shoulders tensed, her hand tightening around the handle. You know how busy they are, she said. Besides, you do it better. I kept my voice steady. It's not about that. She finally looked at me. Don't start, Rachel. You know I count on you. She always said that, like it was a compliment. Like being counted on was the same as being seen. I watched her sip her tea. She didn't meet my eyes. I just wanted to feel fair. She stood up slowly, mug in hand. She walked to the sink, her back to me. Life isn't fair, she said. You're the strong one. She started rinsing her mug. I waited, but she didn't turn around. The dishwasher door opened with a hollow thud. She loaded her mug, closed it, then pressed the start button. The machine whirred to life, a soft rush of water filling the silence between us. I wanted to say more, but I knew how it would go. She would say I was being ungrateful. Or she'd sigh and tell me how much she needed me, how the boys had too much on their plates, how she couldn't do it alone. I'd heard it so many times, the words blurred together. She wiped the counter with slow, careful strokes, as if it needed to be done right then. I stood there, pressing my palm into the edge of the countertop, feeling the pressure build in my jaw. You're the strong one. She always said it like a fact. Like it explained everything. I wondered if she ever said it to them, or if I was the only one who got that particular praise. She left the room without another word, her slippers soft on the tile. The sound of the dishwasher grew louder. I stayed in the kitchen, staring at the mug in the sink, the one she'd left behind. I washed it, dried it, and put it away. I sat on the floor in front of the tree, my brothers on either side, the room full of torn wrapping paper and the smell of coffee. They went at their stockings first. Logan found a new pair of headphones, grinned, and held them up for everyone to see. Ethan pulled out a thick envelope, Amazon gift card, probably enough to buy whatever had caught his eye the week before. I reached into mine, expecting the familiar weight of a small box or maybe a book. All I found was a card. White, no envelope, my name in Mom's handwriting. I glanced over at her. She nodded, smiled, and sipped her coffee. I opened it. The words were in blue pen, written fast. Rachel, I'm proud of you. Maybe now you can help out more around here. Nothing else. No money, no gift card, not even a joke about socks. I looked up. Logan was already plugging his headphones into his phone. Ethan was tearing open another box, some expensive-looking game controller. Dad was in the kitchen, running water. Nobody seemed to notice. I tucked the card into my lap, forced a smile, and mumbled thanks. We went through the rest of the presents. I got a sweater from my aunt, a mug from Ethan that said, "World's okayest sister." My brothers made a show of fake laughing at that. I laughed too, louder than I felt. Mom started clearing wrapping paper right away, her version of Christmas cleanup. She barely looked at me. After breakfast, everyone drifted off. Dad went to shovel the driveway. Ethan and Logan fought over the new controller in the living room. I ended up alone in the hallway, picking up stray bows. That's when I heard Mom's voice, quiet, the kind she used on the phone when she thought no one was listening. I paused near the kitchen door, just out of sight. She was on the phone with Aunt Marcy. Her tone was soft but tired. "No, Marcy. She's the only one who'll ever make something of herself. I just wish she'd remember who needs her." I froze. She let out a breath. "No, the boys are good, but you know. Logan's struggling. Ethan's still so young in the head. Rachel's the one I can count on. Once she's out of school, she'll help out. She has to." I waited. Mom's voice got lower. "She'll do it. She always does. She's smart enough to know what this family needs." I stepped back, heart thumping in my chest. I didn't move until I heard her hang up. Then I went to the bathroom, shut the door, and sat on the edge of the tub. I stared at the card in my hands. "Maybe now you can help out more around here." I read it again. The words were sharp, meant to sound proud, but there was something behind them. A message I'd missed before. I thought about last year, how I stayed home from the winter dance to help Mom with the books. How she asked me to pick up Logan from practice, run errands, babysit Ethan. I thought she did it because she trusted me more. Now it felt different. Like I was being kept on a shelf, just in case. I heard Mom moving in the kitchen. The faucet ran, then stopped. I pressed the card flat on my knee, trying to smooth out the crease where I'd bent it. It hit me then. I wasn't just the helper. I was the backup plan. In case Dad lost his job again. In case Logan failed out. In case Ethan didn't turn out right. I was the one who'd fill in the cracks, hold things together, pay the bills if I had to. Mom didn't want me to succeed for me. She wanted me to succeed for all of them. I stood up, washed my face, and went back out to the living room. I smiled at Mom when she looked at me, careful not to let her see my hands shaking. I folded the card and slipped it into my pocket. No one noticed. I packed my suitcase while it was still dark outside. I moved quietly, careful not to let the wheels bump the floorboards. My room looked the same as it had when I moved back in 6 months earlier, but it felt smaller. I folded my clothes the way Mom likes, neat squares, darks together, socks inside shoes. I left the sheets on the bed. I didn't take the framed photo of us from the dresser. Downstairs, I made coffee, stood by the window, and watched the porch light flicker. I wrote the thank you note at the kitchen table. It took 3 tries to get the words right. "Thank you for letting me stay. I'm starting a new job. I'll be in touch soon." I signed my name, not Love, just my first name. I put the note under the sugar jar, where she'd see it before breakfast. I walked through the house once, checking for anything left behind. My old textbooks, a sweater in the laundry room, a coffee mug. I left them all. I locked my bedroom door out of habit, even though I knew she'd probably open it anyway. The lock clicked, and I hesitated, but I didn't go back. The house was silent, except for the clock ticking in the hallway. I carried my suitcase out to the car, set it in the trunk, and looked back at the porch. No lights came on. No one opened the door. I sat in the driver's seat for a minute with my hands on the wheel. My phone buzzed. I put it face down on the passenger seat and started the engine. The drive back to my apartment took 40 minutes. I listened to the news, then nothing. No one called until I was halfway there. It was Mom. I let it ring. The apartment parking lot was empty except for one blue sedan. I carried my suitcase up the stairs, unlocked my door, and let myself in. The place smelled like dust and old paint. My plants were still alive. I set my suitcase down and plugged in my phone. There were 3 missed calls from Mom. No voicemail. I opened my laptop and found the number for my new boss. It was early, but I called anyway. She answered on the 3rd ring, sounded surprised. "Hi, this is Anna. I just wanted to confirm my start date for Monday. Is that still okay?" She said yes, she was looking forward to it. I thanked her and hung up. I sat at the kitchen table and opened my resume. I fixed the dates, added the new job, deleted the address for my parents' house. I saved it twice, once to the cloud and once to a USB drive. I sent out 2 applications for part-time work, just in case. The thank you note was still in my purse. I unfolded it, read it again, then put it in the back of my desk drawer. I stacked my shoes by the door, hung my coat, and changed the sheets on my bed. I vacuumed the living room. I didn't answer when Mom called again. It got dark outside before I realized. I ate crackers and cheese for dinner, sitting on the floor by the coffee table. The apartment was quiet. I watched headlights move across the ceiling from the street below. I checked my phone once, 4 missed calls, 1 text that just said call me. I turned off the phone and put it in the kitchen drawer. The last thing I did was close my bedroom door and sit on the floor with my back against it. I stared at the wall for a long time. I thought about the thank you note, about the sound of the lock clicking, about the way Mom's voice had sounded on the phone the night before. I drew a line in my mind. I told myself it was enough. I would not go back. I would not answer until I was ready. The apartment felt bigger as the hours passed. I listened to the silence until it felt normal again. A week after I moved out, my phone buzzed at 7:16 p.m. I was finishing a leftover sandwich on the couch, the new apartment still half-packed boxes, and that chemical paint smell. The group chat with Mom and my brothers popped up. I saw the preview first, her usual way of checking in, always with a half-joke, sometimes a guilt trip. "House is quiet without you, Ratch. Hope you're settling in." A photo came with it. I clicked. It was the gas bill, the same brown envelope we'd been getting for years, my name circled in thick yellow highlighter. The photo itself was smudged, like her finger had slipped. My brothers' names weren't there. Just mine. I could see she'd sent it to the whole group. Both my brothers had seen the message. Their little icons, one with a dog avatar, the other his baby, showed up right underneath. Neither replied. I waited a couple of minutes to see if one of them would say something. Usually Matt at least threw in a joke, or Ben would ask how much he owed. This time, nothing. I stared at the photo, zoomed in on my name. I remembered paying that bill myself last January, when Mom said the boys were short after Christmas. I remembered her saying we'd all split things equally from now on, not just utilities. I'd believed her. I typed out, "I can't help this month." I watched the typing dots pop up. Then nothing. The dots vanished. Nobody replied. I put my phone face down on the table and finished my sandwich cold. 10 minutes later, I checked again. Still nothing. "No, it's okay." "No, don't worry, I'll cover it." Not even a thumbs up. I scrolled up the thread. I saw Mom's last message, the one from the night I left, Let us know when you get there safe. That one had 4 hearts. My brothers had both liked it. This one was just sitting there, unread except by me. I thought about texting Mom privately. I started typing, "Sorry, I'm still waiting on my paycheck, maybe next month," but deleted it. I thought about asking the boys if they'd gotten the same request. I wanted to see if either would step up. I sat back and listened to the apartment. The pipes made a ticking sound. My neighbor's TV was on. I wondered if Mom was sitting at the table with her phone, watching the group, waiting for me to give in. I wondered if she'd text Matt or Ben separately, or just wait until I caved. I thought about my bank account. It would mean less for groceries, but I could do it. But I didn't want to. Not after the last few months. Not after what happened the night before I left. I put my phone away and got up to wash my plate. I scrubbed at a bit of dried mustard that wouldn't come off. Later, I checked the chat again. Still nothing. I scrolled through Instagram for a while, then put my phone in a drawer so I wouldn't look again. I lay down on the mattress, no headboard, and listened to the radiator clang. I thought about how quiet it was. It didn't feel peaceful. It just felt empty. Before I fell asleep, I checked the group one last time. Mom had been online an hour ago, but she hadn't messaged again. My brother's icon said active today. No one had liked my reply. No one had sent anything at all. I wondered if this was how it would be from now on. I wondered if they'd ask again next month, or if they'd just stop including me in things. I wondered if anyone even noticed I hadn't come back since moving out, or if I was already just the person who used to pay the bills. I turned off my phone and watched the ceiling until the buzzing in my head faded out. I went into the office a little earlier than usual. The lobby was empty except for the security guard, who nodded as I passed. My desk light was still off. I set my bag down and opened the envelope from HR, the one about direct deposit. I'd never signed up before. My mother liked to see the checks, to know what I brought home. But I filled it out, bank routing and all, and then clicked over to the credit union's website on my phone. It took maybe 20 minutes to set up a savings account with a different password than I used for anything else. I could move money over every Friday, right after payroll hit. It was simple. I wondered why I hadn't done it years ago. Around lunch, my boss stopped by my cubicle, holding a sheaf of printouts. She leaned against the divider. "You busy later?" she said. I glanced at my calendar. Not really. "We're behind on the quarterly report. I could use your help sorting out the invoices," she said. I nodded. "Sure. I can stay." She smiled, almost relieved. "I'll order dinner for us." She left, and I stared at the forms on my desk. I thought about how, in this place, staying late meant overtime pay. There was dinner, and someone said thank you at the end. Nobody expected me to clean up after, or to do it for free. It felt strange to realize that. It made my hands itch. Later, after everyone else left, I printed spreadsheets and highlighted numbers. My boss came by with takeout boxes and bottles of water. She asked about my family. I said they were fine, and she didn't push. We worked in silence for an hour. At 7, she thanked me again and told me to go home, not to worry about the rest. I packed up my bag and walked out into the empty hall. On the train, I pulled up a government website about tenants' rights. I read through the sections about eviction, about who was responsible for mortgage payments. There was a number for legal aid, a list of mediation services. I bookmarked the page. I looked up mortgage forbearance, just to see what would happen if someone stopped paying. There were forms, deadlines, warnings about credit scores. It was all there, open to anyone who cared to read. My mother always said the world was rigged against us, but there was so much information if you knew where to look. I got off at my stop and sat in the little park across from the station. I called Erica, my roommate from college. We hadn't talked in months. She picked up after a few rings, her voice tired. "Hey," I said. "Hey, God, it's late for you. Everything okay?" I hesitated. "I'm just tired. Family stuff." She was quiet. "Want to talk about it?" I tried to explain it, the way I felt responsible for everything, the way my parents seemed to assume I'd always be there to help, no matter what they asked. I told her about the money, the errands, the way they never said thank you. I told her I was thinking about moving out, about what would happen if I just stopped. She listened. I could hear her typing on her keyboard, then stopping. "You know you don't owe them everything, right?" she said. I didn't answer. "You can help, but you don't have to give up your whole life for them." "Seriously," she said. I watched the streetlights flicker on, one by one. I thought about the savings account, the overtime. I thought about the way my mother's voice sounded when she called me home, sharp and certain. "Yeah," I said. "I know." I hung up a few minutes later. When I got home, the apartment was dark. I put my bag down, sat at the kitchen table, and logged into my new savings account again. The balance was 0, but it felt like more than that. It felt like something I hadn't had in a long time. I closed the laptop and just sat there, listening to the clock tick in the next room. My phone buzzed twice while I was rinsing dishes. I let it go. The third time, I dried my hands and looked. "Mom." I stared at the name for a second, then answered. Her voice came through thin, higher than usual. "Rachel, I need help with the mortgage," she said. I could hear the TV in the background, the same old news channel she kept on all day. I waited. She sniffed. "I can't reach the boys. They're not answering their phones." I pressed the phone tighter to my ear. "Have you tried again?" I asked. A pause. "Yes." She sounded tired. "I've called Danny and Paul every day this week. Left voicemails. No answer." She let out a sigh, long and flat. "You're the only one I can count on." I swallowed, glancing at the kitchen window. The sky was already dark. I pulled my phone down and checked the family group chat. The last message was Mom's, 3 days ago, asking about Sunday dinner. Blue check marks next to my name only. I clicked on Paul's contact. "You cannot send messages to this user." Same with Danny. "They blocked you?" I asked. Another pause. "No, I think," her voice trailed off. "I don't know. Maybe they're busy." She tried to laugh, but it came out thin. "They blocked the family chat, Mom." I kept my voice steady. "Both of them." There was a rustling sound, maybe her shifting on the sofa. I could picture her, clutching her phone, blanket around her knees, the stack of unopened mail on the coffee table. For a second, she didn't say anything. "I just don't know what to do anymore," she said, soft. "Your father would have known what to say." I looked down at the sink, the half-washed mug still in my hand. I said, "Do you need money now, or are you just worried about next month?" She hesitated. "I could use some help soon. The mortgage is due next week." She sniffed again. "I'm sorry, Rachel. I know you have your own life." I didn't answer that. I thought about Danny's last text, months ago. "Don't loop me into this. I have enough on my plate." Paul's silence since Christmas. When Dad died, everyone promised to help. Now it was just me and her. "I'll see what I can do," I said. My voice sounded flat even to me. I knew what was coming next. She tried to sound brave. "I appreciate it. I wish the boys would call. Maybe you could talk to them." "I'll try," I said, knowing it wouldn't matter. She thanked me, voice small. We hung up. I stood in the dark kitchen for a while. I tried Danny's number. Straight to voicemail. Paul's, also voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I checked their social media. Both accounts still active, but no posts about family. No mention of Mom. They de-wiped her out. When I sat down, I pulled out the spreadsheet where I tracked my bills. My rent, my car insurance, groceries. I added Mom mortgage in a new row. I stared at it for a while. The house was too big for her. She refused to sell. Every month, she called about the mortgage, about the furnace, about the roof. Every time, it was me she called. The boys had always found a way out. Work, kids, distance. Now they didn't bother to answer at all. I scrolled back through old messages. A photo from last Thanksgiving, Paul carving turkey, Danny pouring wine, Mom laughing. I tried to remember the last time we all sat at that table. The next morning, Mom texted, "Thank you, Rachel. I don't know what I'd do without you." I stared at it for a long time before I replied, "I'll see what I can do." That day, I didn't hear from anyone else in my family. The chat stayed quiet. The silence was clear. The problem was mine now. I left a message for my manager at 7:30 in the morning. I said I needed a few days for a family emergency. She didn't ask questions, just said to take what I needed and keep her posted. I kept my voice steady on the call, careful not to let anything show. Afterward, I went back to my kitchen and stared at my phone for a minute before opening the laptop. Mom had sent over the mortgage paperwork last night. She must have stayed up late scanning everything. The files were neat, named by date, every page crisp and in order. I opened each one after the other. Adjustable rates, late fees, bright red overdue stamps. Her signature in blue ink at the end of every section, her handwriting a little more jagged on the last few pages. I wrote down the numbers in a notebook, how much she owed, how much the rates had gone up in the last year, how many months behind she was. I read all the fine print. I looked up the lender. There were notices about possible foreclosure, a letter from a lawyer, a payment plan she hadn't signed. I made black coffee and sat by the window. Sunlight was just getting through the blinds. I called a financial advisor I found online, someone with good reviews. I booked a meeting for noon, all online. I didn't say what it was about, just that I needed help reviewing mortgage documents for a parent. At 11, I got dressed and drove to the bank. I asked for a printout of my own savings and double-checked my monthly expenses. The teller was polite, asked if I wanted to discuss investments. I said no, not today. Back home, I logged into Zoom 10 minutes early. The advisor was a woman in her 50s, calm, glasses, businesslike. I shared my screen and walked her through the papers. She asked questions about my mother's income, if she lived alone, how long she'd had the house. I answered what I could. She told me about housing counselors, HUD resources, state programs. She said my mother's situation was urgent, but not hopeless. She wrote down phone numbers for legal aid, foreclosure prevention, free credit counseling. When the call ended, I made a list with all the resources. I copied the numbers, the links, the email addresses. I wrote a short email to Mom. I attached the list. I said she should call a housing counselor, that there were people who could help her. I told her the situation was serious, but not impossible. I didn't say anything about money. At the end, I wrote, "Let me know what you decide." I attached the scanned mortgage documents, the overdue notices, the lawyer's letter. I highlighted the most urgent deadlines. I didn't add any personal note. I clicked send and closed the laptop. I sat there for a while, looking at my hands. My phone buzzed once, a calendar reminder for a meeting I wasn't attending. I turned it over. Later, I checked to see if Mom had read the email. She hadn't, not yet. I looked at the clock and realized I hadn't eaten all day. I made toast and ate it standing up, watching the sun fade from the kitchen tiles. No one else called. No one else knew I'd taken the day. I folded up the bank printouts and put them in a drawer. I washed my coffee mug and left it upside down on the counter. I kept the list of resources on my desktop. I didn't delete any of the emails. I went to bed early, not tired, but not wanting to sit at the table anymore. The apartment was quiet except for the fridge. I lay there and listened, waiting for a message that didn't come. Mom's name flashed on my phone again. She always called at the same time, late enough that she could say she didn't want to bother me at work. I let it ring twice, thinking about ignoring it. Then I answered, just to get it over with. Her voice was tight, half angry, half pleading. She didn't waste any time. "Why can't you just send something?" she said, sharper than usual. "Danny always said you'd help if it got bad." I didn't reply right away. I walked to the window and looked out, phone pressed between my cheek and shoulder. "This isn't sustainable, Mom. You need a plan, not a bailout." Silence. I could hear her breathing, her TV in the background, some game show. "You're abandoning me, too." I closed my eyes. My hand tightened around the phone. "I'm helping you help yourself." She made a noise, almost a laugh, but not a happy one. "You sound just like your father." I didn't answer that. I heard the click. She hung up. I stared at the phone for a while. The call timer flashed up, 3 minutes. I muted her number, sliding my finger across the screen before I could talk myself out of it. The air in my apartment felt heavier, but also quieter. I left my phone on the table and started making tea. I didn't hear from her for the rest of the night. Every time my phone buzzed, I expected it to be her, but it was only spam or work. When I sat down with my mug, I kept replaying the conversation. I'd told myself for years that if things got really bad, I'd help her. But now that it was happening, I saw how bottomless it was. She didn't want a plan. She wanted relief, like always. She wanted me to fix it, the same way Danny had, and before him, my father. I kept thinking about what she'd said, that I sounded just like him. It wasn't the insult she meant. It was a reminder. Dee walked away when he stopped believing she'd chain. Danny had stayed, and it broke him. I'd always been somewhere in the middle. I got up again and looked at the stack of unopened bills she'd mailed me last week, the ones with my name scrawled on the envelopes. She hadn't even opened them, just forwarded them to me with a sticky note. "Can you deal with these?" I hadn't done anything with them yet. I still wasn't sure if I would. The apartment was silent, except for the radiator ticking. I felt tired, but not guilty. I knew what would happen next. She'd call my aunt, or maybe one of her friends, and tell them I was cold. Selfish. Maybe she'd even call Danny's old number, just to hear his voicemail. I finished my tea and left the cup in the sink. The phone stayed muted all night. The bills stayed where they were, untouched. I didn't sleep much, but when I did, I didn't dream about her. In the morning, I checked my phone. No missed calls. The silence felt like a decision, not a punishment. I left her number muted. I put the stack of bills in a drawer. I went to work. A week went by with barely anything from my mom. The house felt quieter, not just at night, but even in the middle of the day. Her bedroom door stayed closed. I'd hear her phone ring, but she didn't answer when I knocked or peeked in. The kitchen table kept its pile of unopened mail, and I walked around it like some kind of border. I went to work, came home, made myself tea, watched TV with the volume low. It was as if something in the house had broken. On Thursday, my phone buzzed while I was in line at the pharmacy. The text was from her. Met with the counselor, applied for hardship relief. Not what I wanted, but I did it. She'd attached a screenshot. I opened it. It was an email from the housing office. Subject line, approval notification. The first line said her application was accepted. I read it twice, checked her message, then just stared at the screen for a minute. She'd actually done it. I put my phone down for a second and noticed my hands were shaking a little. I pressed my palm flat against the counter and waited for my prescription. It was like my body didn't know if it should let out a breath or hold it in. I replied, "Thanks for letting me know." No heart, no emoji, nothing extra. I almost wrote, "Proud of you," but deleted it. That didn't feel right. The phone stayed silent. She didn't reply. I picked up my bag and walked home. The city felt different, like I was seeing it through glass. At home, the silence was the same, but now it had a different edge. I went into the kitchen and made pasta. I thought I'd hear from Danny or maybe Paul, but nothing came. No missed calls, no new texts. The group chat was still dead. I checked their profiles out of habit. Paul had posted a photo of his dog 2 days before. Danny's last update was a meme about traffic. Neither had reached out to me, or to her, as far as I could tell. After dinner, I sat at the table and scrolled through old messages. There were a few from last year. Danny sending me dumb jokes, Paul sharing a link to a GoFundMe for his coworker. It felt like another life. I wondered if they'd ever talk to her again, or if this was it. I wondered if they blamed me, or if they just didn't want to get pulled in. My phone buzzed again. Aunt Marcy's name popped up. She doesn't usually text at night. "Your mom's upset, but she needed this." I stared at it for a while. I pictured her talking to my mom, maybe on the phone, maybe having coffee in her tiny kitchen. I wondered if my mom had cried, or if she'd just gone quiet like she always does when she's angry. I typed back, "I know." That was it. No one else messaged. I sat with the phone in my lap, scrolling through nothing, listening to the fridge hum, the pipes creak, the clock tick on the stove. Later, before bed, I looked in on my mom's room. The door was cracked open. I could see her on the bed, facing the wall, a book on the nightstand, the lamp off. I didn't go in. I just stood there for a minute, thinking about what came next. She had the relief. The house was safe, for now. But the air felt heavy, like something unfinished was sitting between us. I went back to my room, shut the door, and lay on my back staring at the ceiling. I listened for a sound, anything. A cough, a sigh, a step in the hallway, but nothing came. I tried to picture what I'd say if we talked, but the words didn't come. It was just quiet. I was half asleep when my phone buzzed. It was late, maybe 1 in the morning. The subject line was blank, but the sender was Mom. She didn't usually email me, not unless it was something official, like insurance forms or recipes. I opened it. There was no message, just a forwarded thread. 2 emails, both with my older brother's names in the header. The first was from her, sent almost a year ago. "Boys, I know things are tight, but I need help. I'm behind on the mortgage, and the car needs work. If there's anything you can do, even a small loan, please let me know. I don't want to lose the house." The reply from Paul came 2 days later. "Sorry, Mom. Can't help right now. Things are rough here too." Then Ben, a day after. "Sorry, no extra at the moment. Hope things get better." I scrolled back up. The date was months before she ever called me about money. I sat up in bed, the covers bunched around my waist. My room was silent, except for the hum of the fridge down the hall. I read the email again, then checked the dates against my phone records. She hadn't asked me for anything until 6 months later. She'd gone to them first. Both of them. Not me. Not even a hint of it back then. Not a word when we'd all been together for Dad's birthday or at Christmas. She'd smiled, made jokes, talked about her garden. No one mentioned anything about money. No one looked uncomfortable. When she finally did ask me, it was with that practiced pause, the sigh she always used when she wanted something but didn't want to sound like she was asking. I'd thought I was the only one she trusted. I'd thought I was the last hope. All that time, I'd carried the guilt, the weight of being the one who could fix it. Now I saw the order. Not the last hope, just a backup. I stared at the email, trying to remember if there'd been signs. Paul's sudden distance, Ben's excuses for not coming home as much. I thought they were just busy. I'd never asked. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Mom, this time with a single line. Thought you should see this. I'm tired of pretending. No hello, no love you. Just that. I got up and went to the kitchen. The tile was cold. I poured a glass of water and sat at the table, the phone face up next to me. It was the first time in months I didn't feel angry at her or at them. Just tired. I scrolled up, reading her words again. I could picture her at her old desktop, typing out that message, probably after a night of watching the bills pile up in the drawer by the microwave. I imagined her waiting for replies, hoping one of them would offer more than an apology. I thought about the way she'd told me, her voice small, the hint of shame she tried to cover with a joke. Maybe she'd already been turned down twice. Maybe by the time she called me, she'd run out of ways to ask without sounding desperate. Still, she could have told me the truth. That I wasn't the first call. That she'd tried them. That she was tired. I put the phone down and watched the clock on the oven blink. I wondered if Paul and Ben knew she'd sent me the thread. Maybe she wanted them to know I'd seen. Maybe she wanted all of us to stop pretending. When I went back to bed, I didn't check my messages again. I lay there, listening to the silence. For the first time, I saw the family story for what it was. Not a shared burden. Just a line of people, each hoping someone else would step up first. I closed my eyes and waited for morning. I paid my electric bill that morning. It felt different, doing it myself. I checked the balance, paid it, and closed the app. I did the same for the internet, then my phone. Everything was in my name now. No one else's address, no shared logins. I didn't need to ask permission or check if someone else had paid. I made a list of what was left: car insurance, renter's insurance, and my last credit card with Mom's name as an authorized user. I removed her from the account, clicked save, and let out a slow breath. The apartment was quiet. I could hear the fridge humming and the heat clicking through the vents. I had spent the last week moving small boxes after work, carrying bags of clothes and books up 2 flights of stairs. The movers came on Saturday for the furniture. I watched them load the couch and the small table I'd bought secondhand. I didn't take much, just what was mine or what I'd paid for. I left the old dishes and the towels with her. She didn't come out of her room while the movers were there. When I left the keys on the kitchen counter, she didn't say anything. I didn't look back. I signed the new lease 3 days ago. The landlord handed me the keys, plain, shiny, a new start. No one else had a copy. I put them on my own keychain, drove across town, and unlocked the door to a space that was only mine. The living room windows faced the street. At night, I could see the headlights of cars going by. There was just enough space for the couch, a lamp, and my bookshelf. I put my bed together, set up my laptop on the kitchen table, and hung my coat on the back of a chair. I kept Mom's number muted on my phone. No calls, no texts. The last message she sent was a grocery list. I scrolled past it and didn't answer. She called once, 2 days after I left. I didn't pick up. She didn't leave a voicemail. After that, nothing. That night, I wrote an email. It took me longer than I expected. I sat with my hands on the keyboard, typing and deleting. I tried, "I hope you're well," and erased it. I wrote, "I hope things improve. I can't be your safety net anymore." I stared at it for a minute, then hit send. It didn't bounce back. No reply came. I closed the laptop and pushed it aside. The kitchen was clean. There were 2 mugs on the drying rack, a box of tea, and a clean kettle. I filled it, put it on the stove, and watched the flame catch blue beneath it. The steam rose slowly. I leaned against the counter and waited. I thought about calling someone, but there was no one to call. Not about this. I thought about what Mom would do now, if she'd try to find someone else to pay her bills, or if she'd just let them pile up until the lights went out. I didn't know. When the kettle whistled, I poured the water, dropped in a bag of black tea, and wrapped my hands around the mug. I stood there for a while, watching the window. It was dark outside, and quiet except for the sound of traffic far away. I didn't turn on the TV or play music. I just stood and drank the tea until it was gone. After I washed the mug, I dried it and put it back on the rack. I looked at my phone. Still nothing. I didn't expect anything. I turned off the kitchen light, went into the living room, and sat on the couch with my feet tucked under me. The silence felt heavy, but not empty. I could hear the hum of the street and my own breath. I stayed like that for a long time, not thinking about what came next. Just sitting. Quiet. Alone. My new apartment is small, but it's quiet. I have my own key, and no one walks in without knocking. I bought myself a second-hand couch and a table that's just big enough to eat at. I keep my shoes by the door. I come home after work, and it feels like mine. Sometimes I hear voices from the hall or the neighbors' music, but it doesn't bother me. Work is steady. I don't bring home much, but I save a little each month. I started packing lunches. I open my own mail. I keep all my bills in a folder under the sink, just to keep things from piling up. Some nights I stay late to finish things. I don't mind the quiet. Mom still lives in the house. She has a woman from the agency who comes twice a week to help with groceries and appointments. I check in by phone, but not every day. She's polite, a little distant. I think she's learning how to ask for help from people who aren't family. There's a routine now. She calls when she needs something. I send what I can, but I don't solve everything myself anymore. My brothers don't come by. They don't call. The house is emptier, but there's no shouting. I saw my name taken off a few documents. I didn't say anything. I let it happen. I keep a photo of the old backyard on my phone. Sometimes I look at it, and I don't feel anything. Other times I remember the sound of the gate, my dad mowing the lawn, the smell of laundry. But then I put my phone away. I have groceries to unpack, a sink to clean, and no one to answer to but myself. 3 months have passed since everything settled. I didn't expect to hear from them, but in early December, a cream-colored envelope showed up in my mailbox. It was Mom's handwriting. Inside, a store-bought card with snowmen and glitter. She wrote, "Hope you're well. Things are working out." She didn't sign Dad's name. I read it twice in the hallway, then pinned it to the fridge next to an old coupon and a photo from a work outing. There wasn't anything else in the envelope. No apology, no update, not even a question about how I was doing. I stood in my kitchen for a while, looking at the card. The apartment was quiet, except for the hum of the radiator. The card didn't make me angry. It didn't make me sad, either. It just felt like something that used to matter, now reduced to a formality, like a polite nod from a stranger. I poured myself some coffee and packed my lunch. I put on boots and zipped my coat. The city outside was gray and damp, but not cold enough for snow. Commuters passed each other on the street, heads down, earbuds in. I walked to work with my hands in my pockets. I thought about the card once, maybe twice, on the train, but I didn't feel the urge to call or write back. At the office, someone had brought in cookies for the break room. I ate one with my coffee and answered emails. The day went by. When I got home that night, the card was still there on the fridge, a small, silent reminder. Nothing had changed, and that was fine. I keep replaying everything that happened, my silence at the end, the way I left things with my family, and whether I actually made things better or worse. I know what I did wasn't gentle, but I also know I was the only one willing to finally put up a boundary. Some people say family is everything. Others say you have to protect yourself no matter what. I wonder where most people draw that line, and if walking away is ever the right answer, even when it means leaving people behind who might never understand why. Have you ever cut someone off and worried you were being too harsh, or not harsh enough? Was there a moment where you realized you'd had enough, or did it build up for years like it did for me? I'm curious how other people see situations like this. Are you supposed to keep forgiving just because you share blood, or is there a point where it's okay to let go? If you've been through anything similar, or even if you just have an outside perspective, I'd like to hear it. And if my story hit close to home, you can subscribe and leave your thoughts. I read every comment. Would you have done what I did?